The RIC was a force of over 10,000 which operated here from 1914 to 1921. This time 100 years ago, recruitment was underway to bring in extra forces to support the RIC in suppressing the Republican movement. They were the notorious Black and Tans. A plan to commemorate the RIC announced last week sparked an angry response.
There is no other country in the world which would contemplate having a commemoration for those who oppressed the community, especially those who oppressed the democratic wishes of the Irish people. Leo Varadkar got this wrong, and his minister got it wrong, and it's now time to call a halt.
Instead, we should be upfront celebrating the revolutionaries who threw the brutality and the oppression out of the country, so it should be cancelled.
Members of a cross-party committee of TDs and senators said their concerns over this event were ignored.
We raised our strong objections to the idea of having a blanket commemoration in relation to all the Crown forces, including the RIC. The government were supposed to come back to us. We raised it again in November. We asked for a draft programme for the 2020 Decade of Commemorations events that would be held this year. We weren't given that in advance of the publication.
The chair of a separate expert committee to advise the government on commemorations said this event should be deferred.
The proposed event has become hopelessly politicised and has become divisive, and I think there's a danger that this could damage the further process with some very difficult issues like the handling of the Civil War.
We did not advise what is being proposed in Dublin Castle on the 17th of January. The proposal was not put before us. We are an advisory group. It is the government's prerogative to decide what it wants to commemorate, how it wants to commemorate it, but they should not be using us for political cover.
In the past few minutes, the government announced this event will be deferred, but questions remain over how it was handled.
Well, for more on this, Mary is with us now in studio. Mary, given the opposition we saw to this commemoration, did the government have any choice other than to announce the deferral?
Yeah, I think the fact that it had become so politicised and so divisive meant that the government ultimately had to make this decision, because this is precisely what they had hoped to avoid by setting up that expert advisory group, by setting up an Oireachtas cross-party consultative committee. They wanted to avoid this sort of politicisation of this, what will be a very important year in terms of commemorations. So the Justice Minister, Charlie Flanagan, has made his statement saying that it's regrettable that there will be some people upset by this, and he said that the response from some quarters was disappointing and he would prefer to take it to an atmosphere that meets the goals of the commemorative programme. But I think the fact that it has come to this and the criticism from Jim FERRITER and others leaves some questions for the government that will remain beyond this.